好，今天来到我们峰会现场呢，还有来自东盟的远道而来的嘉宾。Well, we all know that ASEAN is one of the most fastest growing internet market in the world, with 125,000 new users coming to the internet every day. The ASEAN digital economy is projected to grow significantly, adding an estimated $1 trillion to regional GDP over the next 10 years. So the digital integration in ASEAN is a key component in harnessing the digital economy to power and accelerate intra-regional trade and growth. And next, we'll warmly welcome Mr. Sivaram, Assistant Director of Market Integration Directorate of ASEAN Economic Community Department, the ASEAN Secretariat, to share his insight on new pattern ASEAN digital integration process. Warmly welcome.
A very good afternoon. My name is Sivaram Superamanian. I know it's a bit too long, so you can just call me as Ram, R-A-M. Yeah? So I'm the head of Digital Economy Division from the ASEAN Secretariat. Now, if you're thinking, what is ASEAN Secretariat is all about, or who is ASEAN Secretariat? So for Europe, you have the EU, European Union. For the ASEAN, which is the 10 member states, which I will present later, we have the ASEAN Secretariat to coordinate and facilitate the implementation of political, social, and economic initiatives. So that's ASEAN Secretariat. Now, let me just give a quick view of what does ASEAN means. ASEAN means Association of Southeast Asian Nations, right? What do? We actually promote an intergovernment and facilitate economic, political, and social, cultural initiatives within the ASEAN member states. So in short, if you can see on your left, right, there are total 10 ASEAN member states currently. We are getting Timor-Leste to join us in the next 1 to 2 years, so there's going to be a total of 11 of us in ASEAN in another 2 years or 3 years, right? In terms of size, our total land slice is around 4.5 million square kilometer. And in terms of population, we are nearly to 700 million people, which is equivalent to 8.7% of total population globally, right? We are very diverse in terms of ethnicity as well as what you call linguistically, right? We are multicultural. Among the 10 countries, there are over 1,000 languages has been spoken. And in terms of economy, right? Last year, the combined GDP of all 10 economies or ASEAN member states were $3 trillion, right? Which means we are the 5th fastest growing economy as of 2022. So that's a quick snapshot about ASEAN, right? So now since this forum is all about digital economy and I'm supposed to present on digital integration, so let me just proceed to the next slide, which talks a little bit, little statistics about digital economy for ASEAN, as well as the initiatives within ASEAN. So I guess the previous, the MC who introduced me, she did mention about a little bit about ASEAN. So ASEAN, as we all know, COVID-19 has accelerated the digital transformation globally, and so also for ASEAN. So if you look at the bar chart, right, before COVID-19, from a period of 2015 to 2019, right, we had 100 million new internet users, right? And thanks to COVID, probably that's one of the good things about COVID, right? Within 3 years, the last 3 years, 2020, 2021, 2023, because of COVID, we already hit 100 million. So what we hit 5 years ago, we have already hit 3 years now, right? So in total, we have, out of 700 population, we have 400 million internet users. And 80% of those 450 million internet users, they are digital consumers, which means internet users who are involved in some form of internet transaction. It could be your e-commerce, digital trade, e-gaming, and so forth. Right? So this is the current numbers that we are looking at. Now, thanks to this huge, enormous growth of digital consumers, right, as well as digital economy, right, ASEAN is projected in the next 2 years by 2030 to hit 330 million of digital economy. I strongly believe that this is just conservative because as of last year, we already hit 200 million of GMV, gross merchandise value, and I totally believe that by 2 years' time, we are going to hit more than 330. And majority of this contribution comes from e-commerce. So if you can see the red color bar, which is below, every year the e-commerce growth has been double or more than double. And in 2030, the 330 billion, 64% of the contribution is going to come from e-commerce. Yeah. Now, because of the huge growth of e-commerce digital trade, as well as the digital consumers, the dominance of cash is definitely going down, and we can see it now itself globally, right? So what ASEAN will say is, in moving forward, 53% of cross-transaction value in 2025 is going to come from digital payment. So digital finance is a big for us, and this is something that all the leaders are coming together and see what kind of solutions that we can go into, which I will share some of the solution later. So in summary, I think the presenter earlier mentioned about $1 trillion economy. Yes, by 2030 in long term, in 7 years down the road, ASEAN will hit, digital economy will become a $1 trillion economy, right? And because of this, the 10 member states, as you can see on your right, all of them have come into the Digital Economy Master Plan, which mainly focus on 3 main things. Number 1 is digital economy. Number 2, digital government. And number 3, digital society. Actually, digital government comes first, then digital economy and digital society. So these are the 3 focus areas when it comes to ASEAN. Now, so when it comes to digital integration, for ASEAN, it's just not only digital economy. For us, it is inclusive, where it comes, ASEAN, we started with digital government first, and then we proceed with digital economy. And now, again, one of the good things about COVID-19, the pandemic, we are already moving towards digital society. Now, I think Mr. Yang just now mentioned about the ranking of EU among the China, right? So this is based on the E-Government Development Index by the United Nations survey in 2022. Out of the 10, 7 of these countries are ranked below 100. And when we go deep dive into why are they ranked below 100, this is where you got to know that most of them are not just focused on e-government, but they also go into the industries, how government can help the industry to adopt technology, to leverage on technology to grow, as well as a society, how do we move forward, adopting digital, right? So the rest, other 3, which I don't want to name, right, it's basically above 100 because they just focus on digital economy. So this is digital government. So this is where ASEAN, the 10 countries, the government is coming together, and we are saying that we need to go beyond e-government services. We need to go into the industries, we need to look into the society, and so on. And this is a classic example in the next slide here. If you look, the 7 countries that is below 100, they have way surplus of the global average. And if you look at Singapore and Malaysia and Thailand, because of the initiative they have done in terms of digital economy, as well as digital society. I think one of the speakers spoke about digital ID, right? This is one of the key important, digital citizens, right? So when you start going into this is where, in globally, our ranking also goes up. So again, in summary, I think when we talk about digital integration, it is not just e-government, but it goes beyond to e-economy as well as e-society. So that's a pretty snapshot about ASEAN and our digital economy. Now let me just, sorry, I think it's a different slide that's been projected. So let me just maybe summarize what we have in digital economy, right? What are our priorities? So total, we have many initiatives that we do, right? But I just want to focus on these 8 slides. So first is digital trade, right? So in digital trade, let me just see if those slides are in place. Okay, sorry about that. Right, so digital trade, one of the key initiatives for our government. So what we have done, we have an ASEAN single window, which is a centralized digital system that connects to the national single window of every country of the 10 countries, and we do exchange of digital trade documents, right, which enable cross-border trade, right? So we are focusing very much on custom documents. So we managed to exchange a Attica document, right, which proceed us to a saving for the traders of 1.5 billion per year. Yeah. So what we are looking at technologies where we can move from centralized to a decentralized approach, where it can not only connect government to government, but the national single window will be able to connect to B2G, G2B, B2B, as well as G2G, right? So that's on digital trade. Now, the second slide is about smart cities. So smart cities, I think any other countries in the world, urbanization is a big issue, right? So urbanization create three more issues. Number one is environmental issues. Number two is on infrastructure issues, where you need more better transportation system, you need an education system, better homes, and so on. And finally, urbanization will lead issue in terms of quality of life. So this is where the smart cities, where the 10 countries' government came together, and they say, how can technology enable, right, in terms of moving into a smarter city and solution, right? And this is where, so that it creates a better quality of life. So with that, in smart cities, we came up with a framework. We selected 26 pilot cities, right? In that 26 pilot cities, we are implementing 77 long-term infrastructure projects that would create a smart and sustainable cities, right? So I do have some slides earlier, but not sure it's not here yet. But I think generally these are long-term projects. In the next 2 to 3 years, right, we are going to see the fruit of being a smart cities. Now, number 3 is on emerging technology. I think it's evident that the fourth industry revolution has come in. The previous speaker spoke about AI. I think a lot of remarks has been given also on emerging technologies. So ASEAN, at the regional level, we don't specifically select one technology or one solution. We are looking at the enabling technologies, namely AI, 5G, cloud computing, blockchain, robotics, and so on. So any technology that enable the e-government, economy, as well as e-society, this is what we are looking at. We have developed a detailed guideline on how organizations should adopt AI from the governance point of view. We also have developed a detailed guideline on how countries need to adopt 5G technologies. But we are open, right? I think China, Hong Kong, and Huawei is very big on emerging technology, so we are open to work with all you guys to come with us and help us on what else emerging technology that we should adopt. Now, in terms of digital payment, like I mentioned, is one of our key area. Back in 2019, the 10 finance ministers and also 10 central governors has come in, and they have embarked into real-time retail payment system, right? So this is something that when a trade document or trade is done from Malaysia to Thailand, for example, the payment is done instantly. No more that you have to wait for a few more days and there's a cost involved and so on. It's a real-time payment that we have done. So in 2019, they came up with the guidelines. 2020, they came up with a detailed implementation plan, and in 2021, we have already gone live. At this point of time, Singapore and Thailand, they are able to do a cross-trade on a real-time retail payment system immediately, right? There are other 5 countries, which is Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia, as well as the Philippines is coming in for the real-time payment. Now, what we are looking at is, at this point of time, it has been very bilateral. That means one country to one country. But we are looking at technologies that allow many-to-many RTPMS, real-time payment system, right? And having spoken about this, ASEAN, we are not only looking at these 10 countries, we also want to connect to the world. We want to connect to Hong Kong, we want to connect to China, we want to connect to other countries, the big players who are very big in trading, right? So when we connect, the methodology or the technology or platform that we are going to connect on retail payment, it has to be interoperable with other countries. So that is why the finance ministers are meeting. We are also talking with other dialogue partners on how should we go about so that we are interoperable and we can go into regional payment system, not only with ASEAN, but also with other countries. Number 5 is digital standards, right? We are not, ASEAN, we are not interested to create our own standards. I think internationally there's so many standards out there, and these standards are very important when it comes to cybersecurity, digital payment, and so on. So we are looking to adopt international standards that other countries are doing, including China, Hong Kong, Europe, and so on, and we would like to adapt the same so that the interoperable is there. Digital ID, we are looking into 2 main areas. Number 1, personal ID, right? As an individual, I need to go into digitalization so that I can use the services of other government services. Also, businesses must go into digital ID so that the cross-border trade can happen smoothly. One of the most important things is cybersecurity and data protection. So we do have a detailed guideline on how, at the organization level, your data has been protected, and also when you do a cross-border, how data can be protected as well. Yeah. So that is in place. And finally, digital skills. I think this is one of the key initiatives because ASEAN, 97 to 99% of our industries are MSMEs, right? And the adoption of technology of these MSMEs or SMEs are very low, right? So these are the things we are collaborating with private sector. And this is something that we are also speaking to Huawei and how did they come and train some of the industry on cybersecurity and few other areas, right? So this is where the private sector role is very important for them because they know on the ground what are the issues, what need to be done. So we are collaborating with the private sector to upskill and reskill the industries in ASEAN. Now, whatever I mentioned here, the policy that we developed, the guidelines that we developed, is all on voluntary basis. So we had an issue, while we have good policies, good guidelines, which have won international award, right? But adoption is very low. So this is where we are moving to we are the first region that moves to Digital Economic Framework Agreement. What does that mean? A lot of policies that we develop, now we are going to have an agreement with all the 10 member states for them to implement those guidelines and implement those. So if you are thinking that AI is one of the things, it's a policy that they must implement or adopt AI on certain sectors and certain this one, right? So why are we doing this? And we are pretty excited. We mentioned about the $1 trillion economy, and we know it's going to grow no matter what it is. If we go and have a DEFA for all these things, right, we are going to hit 1.4 trillion to 1.6 trillion by 2030. Now, we truly believe if we collaborate with the private sector and dialogue partners in terms of emerging technology like cloud computing and so forth, AI and so on, we are not talking about 1 trillion, we are talking about more than $2 trillion. So ASEAN, we are pushing very hard on this digital economy, and we are looking forward to collaborate with other parties out there so that we can be a $2 trillion economy when it comes to digital economy, right? So we are all very excited, and we are looking forward to collaborate with all of you, whoever companies here out there, especially Huawei. I know we can work together and we can bring a lot to ASEAN. I guess that's all my presentation, a quick and short. Hope it is helpful. Please feel free to email me or reach out to me if you have any further questions. Thank you.